Walberg from Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the panel for being here. It's great to have all the commissioners in front of us and a full group. The Environmental Protection Agency's finalized greenhouse gas emission standards on fossil fuel generators require existing coal-fired power plants planning to operate past 2039 and new or substantially modified natural gas plants that generate at least 40% of their maximum annual capacity to capture 90% of their carbon dioxide emissions by 2032. This requirement will impose billions of dollars of requirements on generators and other entities to construct carbon capture systems, build out CO2 pipelines, and permit sequestration sites. Companies will not pursue these technologies, I believe, if they are a cost that cannot be recovered. And so, Commissioners Rossner, Chang, and See, in your opinions, will the costs of carbon capture facilities and associated infrastructure be borne by taxpayers?
Thank you for the question. Here's where I'll start. There's strength in diversity, and we saw that in the last couple winters where we had winter storms where if we didn't have all the resources on the system running, we would have had greater problems than we had. So I'm an all-of-the-above person. I think it's essential. To your question about the specific cost of those facilities, that's something that I would have to get back to you. But as a general matter, I think we need them all. Thank you.
Commissioner See, will it be borne by taxpayers, the cost?
I agree these are also very important issues when we're looking at both what it takes to power the nation today and looking at promising technology in the future. I think when we look at these rules in particular, there's a lot of areas of potential concern when we see the consequences that they may have when we're looking at the whole regulatory landscape on the existing power sources that we have. This is an important issue, one that I'm committed to looking at closely to the extent that it affects FERC's jurisdiction and working closely with my colleagues on.
Mr. Chang, will the cost be borne by ratepayers?
Yes, thank you for your question. This is a great concern regarding both the cost and the reliability of the system. And I'm beginning to look into the potential implications of some of the rules that you had just mentioned. And I look forward to having an opportunity to work with my colleagues to really dive in to understand the near-term and longer-term implications. Thank you.
I thought it was a simple question. As a follow-up, many existing generators will likely close their operations because of the EPA's rule. New generation sources are unlikely to be in the footprint of existing generators. As new members of the Commission, do you believe it is just, reasonable, and not unduly discriminatory or preferential for ratepayers to bear the transmission rates that will be required because of this forced generation shift? I strongly believe. Commissioner Rossner?
Well, thank you for the question, sir. And here's what I think. I think that, you know, I'm a yes and. I think we need everything we have today. That's quite clear. And I think we need some new things. And I think when we build new things, we need to make sure that we're building the least cost set of resources and that we're compensating those resources in response to the services that they actually provide. Thank you.
In my role as a new commissioner, I'm looking very closely at costs when it comes to the Commission's authority for just and reasonable rates. I think these are important factors to take into account. I certainly have respect for other agencies and their responsibilities, but as an energy regulator, I think it is important to look at consequences for reliability and otherwise for some of these rules that you're talking about. And that's something that I think is important for us as commissioners to continue to look closely at for all of the reasons you mentioned and others.
Mr. Chang?
Thank you for the question. I take the economics of these energy systems, including generation and transmission, very seriously. Historically, we've built in this country generation and then transmission to bring the power from generation to very nearby load centers. And as the resources shift, we, FERC, and really the industry need to look at essentially the platform and the network that's needed to support the generation that we need, not just today, but into the future. Thank you.
Well, I agree with all of that, but I think there is an answer that was missing here for ratepayers. And I have another question for Commissioner Christie, but I'll submit that in concern about the idea of a shell game that's going on. So, Mr. Chairman, I yield back, and I'll submit that question later.